J.W. Pepper has always been dedicated to helping musicians be their best, and in service of that mission, we've launched a new initiative dedicated to musician wellness. We're promoting both mental and physical wellness for instrumentalists and vocalists with a new landing page that will update with new products, resources, and interviews from experts. Go to jwpepper.com/wellness to learn more, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the new content. Today we're speaking with David Kim, who has been the concert master of the Philadelphia Orchestra since 1999. He was born in Carbondale, Illinois, started playing the violin at the age of 3, and began studying with one of the world's most famous violin teachers, Dorothy DeLay, at the age of 8, later earning his bachelor's and master's degree at the Juilliard School. We've had the opportunity to speak with David in the past. Make sure to check out our Inside Voice interview with him in the description below. Let's get right into the conversation and hear some of David's experience being a professional violinist. So David, we'll start with a few questions about just the physical side of playing the violin at your level, and also what kind of tips can you offer for someone who's aspiring to be a concert violinist. So could you tell us about a specific workout or stretch routine that you have for preparing just to be able to play your instrument?
I firmly believe that physical well-being is so intrinsically connected with the mental side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going through a stressful time in your life and you are maybe stressed out or unhappy or depressed, I think that easily manifests itself in physical issues that happen. And I feel it myself. Like if I feel something, a little tension, it could be with the conductor during a rehearsal, or it could be but whoever I'm sitting with on the same stand, just a little moment of discomfort or a little bit of disagreement or something, I feel literally something happen in my arms and hands, like, ow, a little tightness or something happen. And it's just like money. It just happens every time.
Wow.
When I feel that mental issue happening, it manifests itself physically as well. So I try very much to not let things really get to me on stage. I try to be very mellow. With an incredible institution like the Philadelphia Orchestra, it's easy for people to get worked up quickly. The tension, the pressure is ever present, and it's pretty high. Like if you're getting ready for a concert at Carnegie Hall the next night, or at Suntory Hall in Tokyo, and it's being recorded live for Deutsche Grammophon, and all these things, and your music director, this world famous conductor's on the podium 3 feet away from you, demanding something from you. It's very easy to fall into this kind of pressure cooker situation. So I'll try very hard to be mellow, and it's not easy, Isaac. I have to say that sometimes it's not easy to do that.
What are some of the common injuries or issues that you've seen your colleagues or other musicians suffer from?
Well, on a really kind of the most severe cases are, I believe it's called focal dystonia, where like the pinky will curl in, and there's some really well documented famous cases of very famous musicians who have suffered from this, and it has stopped performing careers. Then of course there's tendonitis and just general arm pain. There is something, in my opinion, a little bit unnatural, the act of playing the violin. The fact that you have to turn this arm here and then put it on your shoulder and then turn your head. There's something in your neck. There's a lot of kind of slightly unnatural positions. And it's really kind of, it can be insidious pain when we play, because we can look relaxed, but on the inside, those tendons and joints and shoulder and rotator cuff and all this can, out of sight, completely be in knots, or
Right.
something is a little bit misaligned. A subject that I'm dealing with a lot in my teaching is posture and body motion, and just basic setup of how you hold the bow, and how you set your head. um, I was actually teaching all morning yesterday at Juilliard. You'd think at Juilliard everybody would be like perfect setup and everything.
Yeah.
No, I was dealing with people who had definite bad habits in their posture, kind of crooked, leaning, all kinds of little bad habits. And for me, I like to go back to, well, not for me. I didn't start as a Suzuki violinist. The Suzuki method had not come to the United States yet when I started violin in the early 60s.
Mm.
But as a dad, my two children, my two daughters, who are now in their 20s, when they were little, they both started as Suzuki violinists. And I'm going to venture a guess that many people who are watching this right now also are Suzuki players.
Mhm.
And you all know what I'm talking about when I talk about a foot chart. You know, you're whichever parent is helping start you on the instrument gets a piece of cardboard and then puts 3 footprints, and so it helps you set your feet from the ground up. Dr. Suzuki believed it started from the ground up, so you go 1, 2, 3, and that's your setup. And then you hold the violin in like a cupcake, like the instrument is down, and then you go whoop, turn it over, and then back up like this, and then you turn your head, and then violin is ready to go. You know, it's like you can't miss. And I am a firm believer that that is so full of wisdom. And yesterday at Juilliard, I was reminding this violinist, like, any violinists can benefit from revisiting just the basics of
Mhm.
good posture. I really believe that um, bad habits in terms of posture and um, setting of the shoulders, lower back, all of these things, such bad habits can happen so quickly on stringed instruments. Like, it takes like a few days, and all of a sudden you're like, you already have a crooked bow? Like, you just started playing violin last week? Like, yeah, I do. Oh, you already have a curly pinky? Like, after you started 3 days ago? Yep, I sure do. You know, like, that's just the way it goes. These
Mhm.
string instruments, lots of stuff happens. So it's really good if you have somebody who, well, teachers, of course, but then teachers get used to the way you look. But just to have somebody look at you and say, okay, how does my posture look? And you hold the violin up and you play. And some people look great until they start playing. And then all of a sudden they start playing, and then the violin drops, and they're bending their knees, and they're tilting, and all this stuff starts to happen, and they can't stop it, and they're unaware of it. And
Mhm.
I think it makes an already difficult exercise even more difficult, because if the violin is constantly dipping and moving, and how are you going to have good bow contact on the strings?
Right.
You need a good, like, solid workbench, and that violin needs to be level, as especially when the music is intricate and difficult. Of course, when it's a beautiful melody, you can, maybe lift the violin a little bit and put your head up or look down or whatever. That's fine. But I feel that our default setting for holding a violin should be just very simple, really, a la Dr. Suzuki.
Mhm. So, what does a practice routine for you look like?
For me, I'm not, in terms of the violin, I am not a person of routine. I would say the only thing that I do on a consistent basis is practice slowly,
Mhm.
um, really super slow, as I call it. I find that I believe what my teacher told me as I was growing up, the famous Dorothy DeLay, which is
Right.
that the, like, kind of neurons and everything in our body doesn't remember. The muscle memory is not there if things are done quickly
Mhm.
and kind of passed over quickly. So when you're a kid, of course, your teacher says, "Oh, practice slowly," and your mom is yelling from the kitchen, "Slower," all that stuff. But for us, we want to play fast. We want to play in tempo. It's exciting. It's more fun, slow practice. But now I've completely turned around, and playing and practicing slowly is actually very satisfying for me.
Mm.
And it's kind of like that good feeling when you drink a big smoothie in the morning. You're like, yeah, I'm doing something good for my body. You feel kind of proud of
Yes.
yourself. Or like, oh yeah, I just drank 16 ounces of water. I'm hydrating. I feel good for today. Like, oh, I just took vitamin C tablets, whatever it is. Same thing with practicing slowly. I've come to the point where now I love it, and I know that the benefits will show later.
What about sleep? I saw a little advertisement about recovering from jet lag and
Yeah.
preparing for that. How do you prepare before a concert? What's your sleep schedule like?
For me, the struggle is the ability to say no. Like tomorrow, I'm flying to San Francisco to play a concerto. And already I find myself overscheduling myself. Like as soon as we arrive, we're going to go to UC Santa Clara, see my nephew. Okay, we're taking you out for Korean food. And then after that, I got to drive my daughter in here. She sees her friends. And then I come back and I'm having coffee with those folks. And then I find that happens. And then I get a little overtired, and then practice suffers and sleep suffers.
Mm.
It's so easy to say, you know what? I don't have any time during the day, but after the concert, let's go grab a glass of wine and a bite to eat. That's 10:30. By the time you relax, unwind, have a good time, ask for the check, drive back to the hotel, 12:31. You brush your teeth, get into bed, look at your phone a little bit. All of a sudden, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock. But then next morning is rehearsal. Then you're a little run
It
down. And
adds
so,
up.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
try really hard to set boundaries. That's something I'm really working on these days because I'm
Mm.
poor at it. I'm relational, I'm extroverted, if you hadn't noticed. I'm like trying always to connect with people, and I have many different friend groups, and so it's very easy for me to overschedule, and then I get tired. So for me, I sleep well. I'm a good sleeper, but at least 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep. And then on the day of a concert, I always like to have like a 15-minute or a half an hour nap sometime in the afternoon, just to kind of reset the brain and just kind of clear things out. And it really helped.
I'm going to take that advice. I love naps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to actually performing, how do you mentally prepare uh, before that moment of walking out on stage, greeting the conductor, greeting the orchestra and audience?
Well, it really depends a lot on what music we're playing. Like if we're playing a piece that has a lot of little solos for the concertmaster, me, or if it's a solo piece for me, if I'm the soloist, the preparation is different than if it's just a standard symphony that I'm just one of a body, the whole orchestra, and not as quite as exposed. But if I'm under pressure, for me, there are a few things that are absolutely musts. One is I don't eat right before I play. I
Okay.
don't want to have a heavy. It's weird. When I was younger, I used to have to eat like one of these big Chipotle like burritos. Like I had
Love
to have
those.
one of those in order to feel good. But now I need to feel an empty stomach so my head is clear. And then also, I don't, this is crazy, but I don't socialize with musicians on the day of a big concert. It's just a weird kind of strange thing that happens. Like once in a while, you'll get a fellow musician who will start putting stuff in my head. Like they're like, I remember I was in Costa Rica once playing with the National Symphony there, and I had lunch on the day of the first concert with this intense principal cellist there. And he just looked across the table at me at lunch and he was like, David, I have a new way of thinking when I play. And that is, you have to imagine the phrase before it, like he said all this stuff. And then I looked across the table at him like, okay. And then I got on stage that night and I tuned and I looked across the stage and he looked at me from over his cello like, let's do this. It was completely in my head, and I played horribly. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't do my own thing, and so at that point, I decided, okay, I am not as much as people in the orchestra want to say, "Hey, let's grab a coffee or let's go have lunch before the concert." I always say, "Sorry, not part of my routine, pregame routine." And and then banana, water, all that stuff. And then usually like to get some kind of physical exercise outdoors before, or some kind of vigorous exercise for at least like a half an hour on the day of.
That performance that you just referenced, like you said that you didn't feel like you performed at your best. How did you recover from that? How did you kind of think about that moving forward?
It's just important to be self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem that we all have, with our parents, our teachers, our spouses, to be self-aware and able and willing to make adjustments and changes. That takes humility. I'm not saying that I'm so great at it, and I'm not, but to have that humility and willingness to just kind of reorder things in your brain and make changes.
And that's perfect for wherever you're at on your journey with playing an instrument. Like, so I read that you're an avid golfer, and I'm wondering, like, how does that affect your well-being, physically, mentally? Like, is that a time for you to clear your mind and get out on the green and hopefully sink a hole in one?
I feel like I'm under pressure a lot.
Sure.
Like every time I walk on stage as concertmaster of the Philadelphia Orchestra, I mean, what more pressure is that for a violinist? And many times I have a solo, or many times I have to speak to the audience before, in the middle, intermission. Many times I have to announce the encore. There's so many facets to this job, all which require adrenaline and public speaking skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I can do anything that is absolutely just immediate in its gratification, like just being outdoors and walking with 3 friends in the sunshine in this beautiful horse country of Western Pennsylvania, or, just that to me is so valuable. And I love doing something that is immediate satisfaction, gratification, and results. There's no like critic in the audience writing, well, David Kim seemed a little under his game, like no judgment. And I love that.
That's awesome. For a student violinist, obviously trying to make sound is the goal. And having their bow, applying rosin, you'll see a lot of students that are probably applying too much. How much is actually necessary?
How would you know that? Are you a musician? Are you a string player?
I'm a cellist.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like super impressed. That is absolutely one of the things that I mention to young people a lot, especially when I'm listening to them live in a masterclass. And I see like puffs of rosin rising from the instrument, and I hear all this crunchiness. And I ask them, almost every lesson I ask people, or a masterclass, how often do you rosin your bow? And some of them say, I do every time I take the instrument out of the case. And then I say, okay, here's a cake of rosin. Show me how you rosin. And they go, shuka, 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 shuka. And there's like clouds of rosin. Too much. We are modern, powerful players, and we put a lot of force onto the strings with the bow. So if we have too much rosin caked up there, and we put pressure, and we are strong young players, you're just going to get lots of bow noise and crunchy stuff, and there's less margin for error in terms of beautiful sounds, strokes, bow strokes. So I recommend maybe rosining once a week, a good rosin once a week. And then after each time you play, again, wipe your strings with a hanky or a rag. And that's about it. Not too much rosining. And then also making sure that you don't let your bow get down to absolutely like you've used it up and there's like 13 and a half hairs left and half of them are kind of dark with dirt and stuff. get your bow rehaired when it starts to get a little low and
Mhm.
get fresh air on there, especially right before any kind of important performance.
So, how would you advise someone to deal with criticism, either external or internal?
Even now, after 25 years and a lifetime of education before that at the best schools money can buy, and it gets me.
Mm.
And I have to remind myself, dude, it's okay. We're just trying to get to a good destination as a musician. This is what you signed up for. Don't be so thin-skinned. And I have to remind myself of that, and then I kind of calm down. But
So true.
really, that's all I can say. It is absolutely a part of being a musician is
Mhm.
that people have opinions. It's the most subjective thing in the world. I was practicing Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto a couple nights ago, and my younger daughter, who is not an aspiring musician, she is a nursing student. She was on her laptop, and then I played something, and she looked up, and she was like, "You better do that again." Maggie, gosh, like, and then she did it again. She was like, "Not there yet." Like that scale passage. Check that out a little bit. Like everybody's an expert. You're going to get a lot of information from many different areas. Your chamber music coach, your orchestra conductor, your mom, of course, your teacher, your roommate at summer camp. Like you're going to get so much information. You yourself, you're going to go look on YouTube and watch somebody else play. And as we get older and more experienced, it is important to understand that it's not all meant to be kept
Mhm.
inside. You're supposed to be able to discern, you know what, that does not match for me. That doesn't work for me. So
Mhm.
even though it came from the most famous chamber music coach in the whole world, after trying like crazy for a year to really incorporate that into my playing, that idea doesn't work for me. So
Right.
I'm going to discard that. And that's why I find a lot of people after college make a huge improvement because they can finally filter out some of the things out of a massive amount of information that they've received during college.
Mhm.
And then they can kind of start personalizing all the things that they've decided to retain.
So, David, how do you avoid burnout being a professional musician with the schedule that you have, with the family life that you have? What's on your mind?
Burnout is an underrated term, I feel, because it happens a lot. It's insidious. It happens when people don't even know it, and it
Mhm.
happens often. And I think it's connected to insecurity. I'm the most guilty of it. I feel like, oh, if I'm not the one doing it, how's it going to get done?
Right.
And my wife looks at me and she's like, it's going to be fine getting done. Somebody else can play. Like I have this, ego thing going. And so burnout is real. And so once in a while, it is really great. And I have to say it out loud to my family. I'll say to my wife, okay, honey, this weekend, I am not going to open my laptop and I'm not going to touch the violin. I have a free weekend. I'm not going to touch the violin. And if I feel that need to prepare for something, just stop me. I'm not
Mhm.
going to touch the violin. And then I come back on Monday and I'm much more refreshed. And it doesn't take long when you're experienced as a musician instrumentalist, it doesn't take that long to get back into shape. It's not like maybe it's a little different for wind and brass players because it's maybe a little bit more holistic and breath control and embouchure and all that stuff. But for at least for me as a violinist, I find that it doesn't take long. Even I just took a 1 week vacation without the violin in Florida. And I don't remember, maybe the last time I did that was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I was worried. And the first few days, I would have these sudden moments of panic, like, oh, I need to practice. Oh, I can't. I don't have a violin here. Like that feeling. And I came back and I thought, ooh, boy, I'm going to be really out of shape. I didn't touch the violin for 6 days. And, at first couple of minutes were a little rough, but then after about a half an hour, I felt pretty good. And then the next day I played a little recital in suburbs of Philadelphia. And that really got me back into shape. And I feel like I'm good as new. And mentally, I feel much more refreshed now. So it's critical to make sure to carve out time for yourself and those you love around you. I've been perhaps guilty of being married to my wife and my music career. And so I want to make sure that I keep my priorities correct so that I don't burn out and my wife doesn't burn out on my career. So there's so many different levels of burnout that we have to be very careful to avoid.
David Kim, thank you so much for your time today and all the value that you bring to the music community through Philadelphia.
It was such a pleasure. Isaac, thank you for having me, and it was a real privilege for me. I enjoyed it immensely.
There was so much great information shared in that interview. When it comes to achieving excellence as a musician, a strong grasp of the fundamentals is so important. And it was so helpful to hear his insight when it comes to dealing with the pressure that comes with performing. Who better to hear from on that topic than the concertmaster of the Philadelphia Orchestra? We would like to thank David for taking the time to speak with us, and we hope that you enjoyed this interview. Reach out to us in the comments with your thoughts, and make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. And remember to check out jwpepper.com/wellness, as we'll continue to update this page with more interviews and resources.